Chapter 8, Implications from Morphology for Teaching Reading and Teaching a Second Language. As identified in Chapter 2, there are two views on learning to read: word recognition view and socio-psycholinguistic view. Teachers who engage in the socio-psycholinguistic view encourage students to use structural analysis when learning new words in reading.
Emmanuel, what is structural analysis?
Structural analysis is the process of identifying and using prefixes, suffixes, root words, and base words to learn the meaning of new words.
Cool.
For example, the word transportation. If students can identify the root port means to carry, the prefix trans means across, and the ION means state or condition of, they may be able to figure out that transportation means something like the state of carrying across.
Prefixes can be tricky. For example, like many other prefixes in the English language, CON changes its spelling depending on the first sound of the root word. It can be spelled CO, CON, COM, COL, or COR. Usually, CO occurs when the root word starts with a vowel such as coexist or co-author. CON is the most common spelling of the prefix, but it changes to COM when the root begins with a bilabial such as commingle or combine. It changes to COL when the root starts with an L, such as in collate or colleague. And lastly, it will change to COR before roots starting with R, such as in correct.
Suffixes undergo fewer changes than prefixes. However, the suffix ION can trigger changes in the root word as well. When added to most words that end in T or S, no change occurs. However, some words that end in T, such as invert, the T changes to an S before ION is added. Or words like imagine or organize add ATION. About 60% of English words have Latin or Greek roots. However, most students don't know Latin or Greek. To use the Latin or Greek root, they would have to first learn the meaning of the root and then use that knowledge to learn the meaning of the word. Some argue that it would be easier to learn the meaning of the whole word instead.
To review, structural analysis is the process of building up from small parts to the whole. However, the problem is that the meaning of the word is often more than the sum of the meaning of its parts.
When someone knows the whole or the meaning, it is often easier to recognize the word parts. Trying to put the meanings of word parts together to come up with a meaning is a much more difficult task.
Emmanuel, what is the best way to increase vocabulary?
Teachers who take a word recognition view often pre-teach vocabulary that they think students may not know. On the other hand, teachers that take the socio-psycholinguistic approach recognize the importance of building background knowledge for reading. They engage students in extensive reading so that they can acquire word meanings as they encounter words in context. There is an important difference between pre-teaching vocabulary items and building background for reading. Teachers face certain problems in trying to pre-teach vocabulary. It is difficult to decide on what words to teach. Some students know most of the words a teacher might choose, while other students may not know any of them. It is very difficult to choose the particular set of words that most students are ready to learn. Teachers also have students look up definitions of words that they will be reading, but the exercises are brief, and students often choose definitions that do not fit into the story context. Students may learn definitions of words without understanding the concept the word represents.
Numerous encounters with a word in many different contexts should be provided, as students who encounter a word in a variety of activities in different contexts develop a more accurate understanding of its meaning and use. Effective teachers involve students in activities that help them build concepts. A word can be a label for a complex concept, but there is a danger of students learning labels without fully developing the concepts if too much emphasis is put on word learning. Teachers help students develop their knowledge of the word by engaging them in activities that build concepts along with the vocabulary used to express those concepts. This is vastly different from choosing specific words to pre-teach.
A good approach to helping students build both the concepts and vocabulary they need to read texts is front-loading. Front-loading involves learning about something, talking about it, wondering about it, and then reading and writing about it. For example, before a teacher has her class read an article on magnets, she could bring magnets into the classroom and engage students in discussion and experimentation. The class can make a chart of words that describe magnets, demonstrate how polarization works by using bar magnets, and adding these words to the chart. The teacher can then begin having students write about what they know about magnets using words from the chart. All these activities serve to front-load the concepts and vocabulary students will need to read an article about magnets.
Teachers who take a socio-psycholinguistic view of reading provide time for students to read because they believe that extensive reading is the best way for students to develop their vocabulary. A study was carried out with adult speakers of English and college students learning English as a second language that showed that both groups were able to divine many new vocabulary words just from reading a novel. Students read A Clockwork Orange, which contains words in a made-up language that the students could not have learned before reading. The subjects, on average, acquired more than 183 new words simply by reading the book.
Emmanuel, what does it mean to know a word?
Knowing a word means much more than just knowing a synonym for the word or a short definition. You may be able to recognize a word in text during reading, but be unable to pronounce it. Words like Russian character names in novels or a word like anemone may be in your reading and writing vocabulary, but not in your speaking vocabulary.
Knowing the word also means knowing the inflectional and derivational affixes it combines with to produce complex words. For example, knowing a verb word means knowing if the past is regular, like talked, or irregular, like went. You must also know the extended or metaphorical meanings of words. For example, tiger can refer to a person who goes after what he wants aggressively. Go get him, tiger.
Knowing a word involves knowing the context in which it is appropriate to use the word. A word like dude could be used in an informal context, while the same person might be referred to as sir in a more formal situation. English learners often have difficulty in learning the level of formality of words, and this can lead to situations in which they offend someone unintentionally.
Emmanuel, how can teachers help English learners acquire academic vocabulary?
Teachers can help students develop academic English by using techniques designed to make academic language more comprehensible. Teachers can use a number of strategies to help students comprehend academic texts. They can activate or build background knowledge, preview text, and teach ways to use graphic organizers to represent key ideas. Teachers can also involve students in extensive reading. If students are reading content area texts, they will acquire academic English. Teachers can also engage students in cognate studies. Cognates are words that come from the same root that were literally born together. If English learners speak a Latinate language, for example, they may understand many academic English words when they try to connect those words to related words they know in their first language.
For example, a Spanish speaker could understand the English word history by associating it with a Spanish cognate historia. Knowledge of the Spanish word transfers to reading in English. This idea is supported by the Common Underlying Proficiency Theory, or CUP, stated by Cummins, which says that what a person knows in one language can transfer to a second language.
Knowledge of morphology can inform teachers as they make decisions about the best way to teach reading and to teach English language learners.